After all, Kennedy's attacked what may be President Trump's biggest first-term accomplishment, something called Operation Warp Speed. It saved millions of lives, allowed the economy to reopen, and helped Americans get back to their normal routines. And just imagine if RFK Jr. had been in office during Trump's first term, how many fewer people would have gotten the shot? How many more people would have died?
Joining our conversation, co-director of the Center for Vaccine Development at Texas Children's Hospital and dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine, Dr. Peter Holtz is here. Tim Miller is back with us as well. Dr. Holtz, let me just add a few more pieces of reporting into the conversation. The Associated Press last year reported that RFK Jr. has made his opposition to vaccines clear. Quote, in July, Kennedy said in a podcast interview that, quote, there's no vaccine that is safe and effective. RFK told Fox News that he still believes in the long ago debunked idea that vaccines can cause autism. In a 2021 podcast, he urged people to resist CDC guidelines on when kids should be vaccinated. Quote, I see somebody on a hiking trail carrying a little baby, and I say to him, better not get them vaccinated, end quote, Kennedy said. Let me just deal in facts and science since we have you, and it's such a treat to get to talk to you. On the link between vaccines and autism, I know this is an area of expertise for you. What are the facts?
Yeah, the facts are, Nicole, vaccines do not cause autism. In fact, I wrote a book about my daughter because I'm a pediatrician, a vaccine scientist. I develop vaccines. We developed a COVID vaccine reaching 100 million people in India and Indonesia in our laboratories. And I also am the parent of an adult daughter with autism. And I wrote a book called Vaccines Did Not Cause Rachel's Autism to put that away. And the massive scientific evidence showing there's no link, and they allege different vaccines. It started with the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella. Then Robert F. Kennedy Jr. came out in 2005 in Rolling Stone magazine, said it was thimerosal. It's all nonsense. And then also what we know about the genetics of autism. And now we have a number of autism genes that have been identified. So we have a complete story about it. So that is completely erroneous. There is no link between vaccines and autism, and it's awful that he keeps on pushing it. I mean, here's the reason why we need to care about this stuff, Nicole, is that we have some big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mr. Bloomberg mentioned H5N1. That I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry. We're seeing sporadic human cases, no human-to-human transmission yet, but that could happen. It's in the cattle. It's in the milk. And that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing in Asia. We've had SARS in 2002, SARS-2, COVID-19 in 2019. And we know these viruses are jumping from bats to people thousands of times a year. But there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito-transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast, where I am here in Texas. So we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus, maybe even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all this sharp rise in vaccine preventable diseases going up because of, in part, the anti-vaccine activism that's so prominent right now. We have a 5-fold rise in pertussis cases, whooping cough over the last year, 15 measles outbreaks this year. We've got polio that's been in the wastewater in New York State. All that's going to come crashing down on January 21st on the Trump administration. We need a really, really good team to be able to handle this.
Tim Miller, all it takes, I mean, RFK said, I'm not going to take away anyone's vaccines. That may or may not be true. But all it takes is to say what he said on a hiking trail to a parent carrying a little baby, quote, I say to him, better not get them vaccinated. And you've got people very, very sick or dying of all the diseases Dr. Holtz just listed. It's not about what you take away or don't supply. It's about what the country does. And I think we know already what the country will do. The pipeline of scientific disinformation, the attacks on Dr. Holtz specifically, and doctors and scientists generally, it's a play the right has been running for years. Your thoughts as we head into the final period where you might have science-based government health agencies.
Yeah, and there's a lot concerning there. I would just start, since Dr. Holtz is here for his expertise on the science, I can bring my insight into the human condition. That is an insane person that stops on a hiking trail and says to a stranger that they should not vaccinate their child. Could you imagine? If I was in that situation, walking down a hiking trail with my child, I would be running away as quickly as possible. Like, please do not talk to me, sir. And so, like, the idea that having a deranged person in charge of HHS leads to a lot of potential risks and problems, and it just as far as management, in addition to what we're talking about here specifically with regards to vaccines. So I think that's number one. Number two is just the messaging element of all of this, right? I think that that you can play a nudging role within government that is different from laws and rules, right? Like having government officials raising questions about this, changes human behavior, and I think that I think that's very concerning, particularly when it comes to vaccines. And the last thing I'll just say about this is having Michael Bloomberg as an advocate. He might be a Democrat, but in a lot of ways, him and RFK have some weird overlap and that Make America Healthy Again space. Like Bloomberg has credibility here. There are legit ways the government could come in, and you could disagree or agree on that's government's role as far as big gulps and encouraging health, and there are ways to do that. And so for Bloomberg to be the voice there, I think is very telling, because you could imagine a different world where him and RFK would have areas of agreement, and instead he's sounding the alarm.
And to talk about it to everybody. I see somebody on a hiking trail carrying a little baby, and I say to him, better not get him vaccinated. And he heard that from me. If he hears it from 10 other people, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he will save that child. When they hear that from 10 people, it'll make an impression on them. And we all kept our mouths shut. Don't keep your mouth shut anymore. Confront everybody on it.
I love that. I love it. Thank you.
We've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about.
There's a lot of people that said it's not a virus. The virus is a passenger virus. And these people are dying mainly because of poppers. 100% of the people who died in the first 1,000 who had AIDS were people who were addicted to poppers, which are known to cause Kaposi sarcoma in rats. And they were people who were part of a gay lifestyle where they were burning the candle at both ends.
Do you have any idea of how many cases of measles were in Samoa between, say, 1986 and 2019?
I have no idea.
Right, okay, I've got that. 1986, 1 case of measles, 93, 7, 2005, 0, 2006, 0, 2009, 0, and in 2019 there were 5,707 measles cases. Do you know what happened in 2019?
Yeah, I'm aware there was a measles outbreak, but I didn't have anything, I had nothing to do with people not vaccinating in Samoa. I never told anybody not to vaccinate. I didn't, go there for any reason to do with that.
One News has learned of a high-level anti-vax meeting just before this deadly measles outbreak, a meeting between vaccination critic Robert Kennedy Jr. and anti-vax blogger Taylor Winterstein. Publicising her meeting with the high-profile Kennedy as profoundly monumental for her movement.
This so-called anti-vaxxer, Edwin Tamasese, he had promoted the use of vitamin C to cure the disease.
During the country's two-day mass measles vaccination drive last week, he posted, "I'll be here to mop up your mess, enjoy your killing sprees,